What's up guys, Marty here with another Valheim video. I've played too much Valheim. I have played it non-stop since release. Pretty much the only game I've been playing for the last month, and I've completed most of the game now. I started to peel back the curtain now and kind of see the inner workings of the game, starting to see the rust around the edges. And because it's an early access game, I'm starting to see the placeholders and the parts of the game that aren't yet implemented. So, like for example, there's these huge giants, these stone giants in the mountains. They're quite hard to kill, but if you do manage to kill them, they drop these crystals. There's no use for them. They just sit in your inventory. There's no use for the crystals. When you beat the fifth boss, the final boss, there's no cookie trail onto the next boss. It just kind of veers off to nothing, and there's not anything left to do. And of course, I just want to say that's not a bad thing. The game is huge. They've made an amazing world. The game is incredible. I've loved every minute of it, and it is so worth the money. I can't believe this was made by what, like 5 people? It's insane what they've made here. But it does lead to the question, what's next? So in this video, I wanted to talk through the developer roadmap that they released. So they've released the updates that they plan to bring out in 2021, what sort of systems and features we're going to be getting, my thoughts on them and how I think that's going to impact the game, and whether I think that's what we need right now, or what I think the game needs as someone who's now run out of stuff to do. So yeah, the developers released the roadmap and they've given extra, because the roadmap's really brief. It's just 4 sections with a title. There's nothing else to it. But they have released some other comments or released some little bits of information in interviews. So I just want to run through it. It looks like they're planning 4 big updates through 2021. I'm going to go through it now. So the 4 big updates have got names, and then there's some extra stuff at the bottom under if Odin wills it. So this is just stuff that they want to work on, but they may not have the time. It's if they get through everything else, they're going to move on to some of this stuff. So starting with number 1, Hearth and Home. This is mainly about house building, more designs, building pieces available, things like that. That's going to be pretty huge. People are loving the building aspect of this game. Currently, we've got a lot of different wood types. You can build a lot with a wood. You can make a really good looking wood house. You've got the fine wood, the normal wood, the core wood, but they're mostly just for supports. And then you've got stone. In my opinion, there's not enough stone. I think it'd be interesting if we got more types of wood or more types of material that we could use to build with. I don't think we need that many new shapes, and look, Minecraft is made with blocks. I don't think we need that many different shapes, but different materials would really help out. I think they need to do more metal as well. I know it was a Viking game, but maybe some more metal would really help, because at the minute you can make like iron gates and like iron candle holders, stuff like that. But you can't really go to town with metal to draw out like a long haul. They're also going to be including food and recipes with this update. I think that's huge. The food, if you're only 2 or 3 bosses in, you may feel like there's not much to do. You go to your cauldron and there's like what, less than 10 recipes. You've got meat and maybe you've got a farm. That's it. Once you get past the 4th boss and you're in like the black metal stage of the game, this really does expand. Once you kill the 4th boss, you go to the plains. They put so much in this late game. Like you can grow flax, you can grow barley, you can turn barley into flour, you can make bread, you can bake, you can cook pies. Honestly, it feels like you're playing RuneScape. There's so much cooking and crafting in the late game that you don't see in the early game. I'm hoping with this update, they bring some of this really cool stuff they've added into the early game. I don't think we need more late game cooking, because I've got over 200 and something health right now. But at the start, if you could bring some of that in, that would be really cool. But yeah, I think there's a lot of realism they could bring forward from the late game into the early game. That's like crafting style. I hope that could come in Hearth and Home, because that does feel more like what they were talking about. If you've played games like Medieval Dynasty, I played a ton of that, and they've really done well with farming. So like they've added more realism to the farming, where like you have to turn the soil, fertilize the ground, certain crops going to grow in certain seasons. And in this game, you can see the basics of that. It's like they started doing this right at the end of the game. And I guess because it's early access, this isn't the end of the game yet, but it's the end of the game right now. Like when you get to the plains, which is the one of the end zones, there's like barley and flax, which can only be grown in the plains, which is a great idea. So you have to build an outpost with a farm in the plains and harvest those specific crops in that area, which is cool. But why not bring that earlier? Why not have something you can grow like some sort of rice or something you can grow in like evil rice that you can grow in the swamps or something you can grow in the Black Forest, like a certain type. You maybe grow mushrooms and stuff. I don't know, but stuff you can bring in early to flesh the early game out to give you that sense of linear progression of other things other than fighting all the way through. But yeah, Hearth and Home is looking like an expansion that is building on something that is really good, but not implemented enough right now, in my opinion. More building designs, amazing. More seeds, plants, and recipes, much needed. So yeah, very interested in this one, and I think this is going to be great. Next up, Cult of the Wolf. This is looking like exploration, combat, new enemies, and it's super vague what the plan is here. They've really not given much away. As I mentioned earlier, there's a few items in the mountains, right, like that don't have much use, such as like the crystals. And given that wolves are from the mountains, it makes me think this is going to be a mountain themed expansion. Another clue here would be that like the enemies in the mountains, if you go there, there's wolves which you fight that are really strong and they drop like wolf hide and stuff. But then if you go there at night, there's basically these werewolves. They're like these big hunched over werewolves called the Fenring, and there's no reason why the werewolves are there, and there's no explanation on why they're there. And if you kill them, they drop a wolf fang, right? So it's like the werewolves are coming from the wolves. They don't drop anything else unique, and there's no understanding of why they're there, why we have werewolves. There's it's like they put the monster in the game but didn't implement anything with them. You'd think there would be a drop that you can craft a certain item or weapon from. So yeah, I think my guess would be that this Cult of the Wolf is going to be werewolf related or related to their story. Interestingly, the mountain as well is it's one of the only areas that doesn't have its own dungeon. So potentially we could have some weird dungeon there, maybe like full of those werewolves. Maybe there'll be like some sort of, I don't know, Skyrim style werewolf experience down there. I think they can do a lot with that. I, that's my hope. That's what I think. The mountain is such a cool place, and there needs to be more there. I think there's a whole story they can expand on in there, and Cult of the Wolf would be really good to do that. But that's just me speculating. I've got no idea. On the flip side, it could be go tame a wolf, and there's a whole wolf taming and adventuring section to the game that they add. Who knows? Who knows what they're going to do? There's really nothing to know about this one. So on to update 3, ships and sea. Like given Vikings are so well known for sailing and raiding in their longboats, it only makes sense to flesh out this aspect of the game. And I'm conflicted on sailing. Sailing feels amazing mostly because of how vulnerable you are and how easy it can all go wrong. Like you can have all your best gear, you can have an inventory full of stuff coming back from some high level zone, going back to your base, and you can just lose your boat, lose everything, and be dead so quickly. You can just get attacked, or you can get into rough waters and your boat can be destroyed so quickly. So that I think that side of it feels great, but what bothers me is how boring sailing is. Unless you've got a group of friends and you're just chatting shit on Discord, sailing is dull. Like my experience of sailing is just sitting watching YouTube while I'm waiting to get to my destination. So when we talk about ships and sea, they've confirmed that there's going to be like customization of boats, which I'm not too fussed about. It just means we get different colored stuff. Maybe we get like different masts and sails and what those things called on the front of the boat, like the yeah the thing on the front of the boat that you can switch and change, like in Valhalla. That'd be cool, but I'm not going to be getting too excited about changing the color of my sails. One thing I'm hoping for here is more to do in the ocean. That's what I think they really could win people over with here. So from my experience in the ocean, you've got the sea serpents, which are cool the first time you fight them, and they drop scales, which you can make a shield out of. That's really cool. There's just one monster in the ocean, and it's the same thing you'll find everywhere. Then there's like the Leviathan, which is like a creature in the ocean. that you can get on its back, and you can mine barnacles to craft weapons with. Again, awesome idea. First time you find that is incredible, but that's it. The map is so big, it will take you tens of hours to get around the whole map. And there's only those two things to find: ocean bosses like the Kraken, or like mini bosses, ocean events like whirlpools, tornadoes. They already have like rocky seas, but yeah, more stuff to do would be cool. And then like maybe events out there like shipwrecks, ghost ships. I think being able to like raid would be so good. Like just something like when you get to the plains, you have these you have these villages in the plains that are full of goblins, and they literally act like human villagers. There's like ranged, melee, um, there's like shaman. There's like three types of people, and they hang around in these real villages with like outposts, walls. I think they could add something like that to the coastal regions, where you can go around in your boat, just pull up, get out, attack these guys, steal all the loot, and get back on your ship. That would be it's so what Vikings did, and I think that would really help. I think there just needs to be more stuff to find as you're traveling in the sea. You don't want to go through like I say, my experience of the ocean is setting sail from one area to the other, and in an hour, you can almost watch a film while you're sailing. And while you're sailing, you might find a sea serpent. That's it. More to see in the sea would sell me on this. I'm really hopeful for this one, and I think it's something that they really need. Last update here is the Mistlands. And if all three of these updates are pure trash, I've got full confidence that this one will be good. Because this is Valheim's strength, right? This is their bread and butter. Making huge biomes with their own feel, style, enemies, loot, progression. That's what they've done. That's how they've sold, what, like 3 million copies right now? And yeah, the Mistlands are going to be the new biome to progress through after boss 5. So it's going to have its own loot, its own enemies, its own boss. And I think they had an interview with PC Gamer where they confirmed that the finished version of the game will have 9 biomasses and 9 biomes and 9 bosses. So yeah, I guess in boss 6 will be in the middle Mistlands, and I'm so ready for this. It's going to be a while. If this is update 4, we're going to be waiting a long time for this, but it looks pretty cool. It's already like half in the game, and it's like a work in progress. And it's like there's like tall trees, roots, cobwebs, giant skulls, and it looks like there's going to be some scary shit here. Spiders for sure. No in Valheim, some dark armor, weapons, and another awesome boss fight. So yeah, this one, there's no speculation here. They've they've done a good job on Mistlands already, just because they've proven themselves that they can do this well. So yeah, these 4 updates. I don't know. What do you guys think of this? They sound cool to me. Maybe not what I would have done, but it's more updates to a game that I love, and that's never a bad thing. I started playing this game with a group of like 6 people, and there's 3 of us left. 2.5. One's playing casually. And the reason most of my friends stopped playing is because they got bored of the grind. I think 2 things that would really help keep people engaged is more things in the early game. In my opinion, the game is like a 7 up to boss 4, and then the game is like a 10 out of 10, honestly. And most people aren't going to see that, because there's nothing in the game, in the early game, outside of killing bosses. That's what you do, right? You level up your skills and you go to kill the boss. The other thing that I would change, I've touched on earlier, and it looks like they're addressing, is the ocean. The only time I've ever nearly quit this game, I closed it in anger and stopped playing, was sailing across the ocean. Yeah, I find it really dull, really, really dull. Because I mean, for me, boss 3 was an hour and a half, probably from my main base. From the furthest I'd been to where this boss was, it took about an hour and a half of sailing. And in the hour and a half, I didn't encounter a single thing. I just watched about 10 YouTube videos. Um, yeah. So I think they're addressing the 2 main areas. And then on top of that, we're getting an extra zone. So I'm happy. Maybe I'd done these in a different order. Maybe I would have done more. I'd focused more on bringing in the early game, but maybe, I mean, they've sold so many copies. Maybe they don't need to worry about that. Maybe people are playing and I've just had different experiences. But these are just my opinions. I'm sure everyone is having a different experience. I'd love to know in the comments what you guys think of the roadmap, what you guys would change in the game, what you like and dislike, and what you were hoping for. And if you like this style of video, drop a like, subscribe to the channel for more. And other than that, guys, thanks for sticking around. I hope you're enjoying Valheim as much as I am, and I'll catch you in the next one.